Morgan, and we are here to discuss the new tarot tag, hashtag occult tea, social media witchcraft, grifters, aesthetics, imposter syndrome, consumerism, and gatekeeping. A community conversation about things that divide us. This hashtag comes from Polish Folk Witch, Ella Harris, and also the Red-Headed Witch. And if you look at their YouTube, there will be a link over to their Instagram, where they have a post discussing the tag and, of course, listing the prompts. So there are 4 main topics: impact on the community, influencer authenticity, imposter syndrome and FOMO, and capitalizing off community, as well as conclusions. This is looking to be a long video, so I'm going to get myself a chair and a drink and basically invite you all to do the same. Get yourself a chair, and you're probably already sitting, but get cozy, get something to drink. Since it's occult tea, I will skip. I'll put off my morning coffee, which I should have already had by now, but didn't. And what else? Make tea, of course. So I guess I'm thinking I'm gonna use this little cup here, this little chipped cup. My microwave, I don't know why I'm talking so funny today. My microwave is making unnecessary noises while things are sort of banging around in there. Welcome to the conversation. While my water's heating, introduce yourself. Okay, no, that's not it. Sorry. This is from the Polish Folk Witch and the other 2. We would like to extend an invitation towards all members of the occult and witchcraft community, not just content creators or big names, but everybody, to participate in a discussion about the lived realities surrounding social media content and the issues as well as blessings that it creates for us as a community. The idea is to be open about our lived experiences of the challenges, aches and pains, matters of belonging, accessibility, authenticity, grift and abuse, long-term impacts of the online world on our practice, and much more. This is interesting. I don't know if I've noticed it from other tags, if it's always been a thing, but they also add here that you can participate in the discussion by sharing your perspectives based on topics and prompts that we prepared for you as a skeleton. You're welcome to participate via video, live, article, podcast, or any other format that is accessible to you. So that's pretty cool. I would be interested if anyone knows of anyone who's done it on article or a podcast. I guess podcast is very similar to a video. Let's see. Use hashtag occulttea, which is hashtag OCCUL, capital TEA, so we can find each other's contributions. If the idea picks up, we are interested in hosting a real live community a big live community panel to discuss the matters in a proper circle, open for everybody to participate. And again, this is posted by the Polish Folk Witch and Ella Harris and the Red-Headed Witch. This is not me. But I like this too. If the idea picks up, they are interested in hosting a live community panel. So that should be really very, very fun and very educational. I see there are a few people here. Hey, thank you for joining. I am Okay, there's my chairs right nearby. We're good. Introduction, introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Ultraviolet. Ultraviolet Morgan. Uh, I used to change my name around a lot just for fun. So I've been known as Teddy Bear, Ultraviolet Teddy, Ultraviolet Pisces, Ultra Spicy Pisces. That was kind of a joke. A fruit on the boobies. That was fun for a minute. That was just based off of a particular tarot card that just a joke that went on for a long time because when I changed my name to that, YouTube hadn't had this rule before, but suddenly you were limited to how often you could change your name, and I wasn't allowed to move it back. So I got that ultra spicy name, and it stuck to me for a minute. Let's see. How long have I been participating in the Witchcraft Online space? I have been on YouTube for, I am not sure, a few years now. A couple of years, 3, maybe 4. I don't know. What practices and topics do you discuss primarily? It is tarot. Tarot. Unboxing. I used to really love to do tarot pick-a-cards, but I have limited space on my recording device. So, I went to doing more lives. And that was usually live readings, but I really enjoy live discussions from quite a number of different people in the community. Like Simon at the Hermit's Cave. I used to very regularly. He might still do it very regularly. But during COVID, I believe. And what was another one that I really watched regularly during COVID was The Truth and Story. Oh my gosh, love her lives. They are so fun. Of course, my brain goes blank when it comes to names. Lisa. Why can't I think of her? Lisa Pepez. And remember when I first started watching her, her channel was something different. Hello, Aldona. How are you doing? We're discussing the occult tea hashtag today. We're not doing any readings, just to let everybody know. Not doing readings, sorry. Just answering questions about the occult tea hashtag. So, Lisa Pepez, I really like her self-worth series. Her lives are fun, and then it's just chaos, of course, when you bring in the love of her life. Peggy. I'm telling you, I'm blanking on names today. But yeah, Peggy, who makes the Peggy bags at Spark Creations. Got some names. Which are tarot bags. They're great to check out. Anyway, enough with the name dropping, right? Oh, but I will also drop other channels that I have especially created a joined community with would be the Tarot Oracle, who used to stream live every night, and has cut it down to once a week because he is in cancer treatment, so it's been a little difficult. And the Tarot Magician is another one who's fun to watch. She streams often. but not as much on a regular schedule. And she does lives that are pretty fun. Oh my gosh, Dr. Mystical streams. He used to stream, I think, twice a week, Tuesdays and Saturdays, and now it's Saturdays. And it's a great community over there, so fun. And he does lives, 1 card readings just from questions, and 3 card with a donation, so usually there's a chance to get a reading even if you aren't able to donate, so that's fun. Versus other channels, well, the Tarot Magician also will do live, like, yes or no type questions, and Tarot Oracle channel donations just flood before he even gets on, so that's pretty much donation only. Okay, occasionally someone will sort of donate on behalf of a newbie, but that's very nice. Anyway, let's see. So that's been some of my participation. It was really fun to be able to join some of the smaller communities where people in the live streams, in the chats, are just as active, and just regulars, and as much of the community as the people making videos. So not necessarily do you have to make videos to be part of the community, so that's enjoyable. What practices in top? Oh, I already guess I got that one. Okay, topic 1, impact on the community. What is my personal reasoning, inspiration behind sharing my practice online? So, 100% I wanted to join to be part of the online tarot community, and also to some extent the wider occult witchcraft community. I also wanted to practice, get more practice with reading, doing readings for people, but more so like learning, practicing, and being a part of the community, and really just being able to interact with other creators. And so things like the tags, of course, I haven't participated in too many of them, but I do enjoy watching them. And one that I was like 28 Days of Tarot. There's a yearly one that Ethany does, and I think I started to do that one year, but it ended up being, for me, a little... It ended up that I basically just wasn't really good with remembering to do it every day. So consistency is not my strongest of strong suits, sadly. Okay, so I heated my tea, but I really need to put the tea in the tea, or there'll be no tea to tea. Okay, I got detox. I got hibiscus strawberry. I've only got one hibiscus strawberry, and I always really prefer to use 2 tea bags. Okay, the detox is like clove and licorice and ginger, cinnamon. That's too strong. Okay, so I'm gonna do green tea with elderberry bigelow, plus vitamin C. So that's, and Great Value, which is the Walmart brand strawberry hibiscus. I do have another strawberry hibiscus brand I use that is, oh, that smells so good. Really good, but I don't remember what the brand is. So it is what it is. Okay. Pour the water on the tea. I And also, I like, so, this is 2 minutes, but I really like to steep my tea longer, so I'm going to set a timer. I am in the kitchen, so I'll set a timer for about 5 minutes. Most of my audience I have apparently lost, but maybe they'll join later. This is a very watchable live. Oh my goodness. Beautiful, beautiful. Beautiful red. I like to put raw honey in my tea. This is Great Value brand raw honey. It's not the favorite, but it's good. I like to get it at a local place when possible. And I like the comb. Oh my gosh, the comb is so good. The only issue is that when you get it with the comb, there's also tends to be wax in it, and I don't really like the wax. The wax is fine, you can chew it and everything, but I don't like it in my tea, so it's better for other things rather than the tea. So it's raw honey. I prefer to get local raw honey, but this time we were lower on funds, and we just really wanted to have enough tea to not run out. We do not want to run out of tea. Alright, so back to our questions. So, my personal amazing inspiration. What am I looking to achieve by participating? It's sense of community, and I have really feel like I have definitely achieved that. Yeah, I've met some people that have become really close. So that's kind of amazing. I think that's really amazing. I would have never imagined that. I would have maybe hoped for it, but, you know. And again, some of these people are not people who make their own channels, but people who participate in lives. And some of these people are people who make channels, so, you know. Do I seek to educate, learn, or connect? Yes, yes, and yes. How do I believe social media as a whole has impacted the community? I think it's interesting. I just want to point out, it's funny because when people talk about social media on YouTube, I feel like they don't include YouTube as social media, which I think YouTube is social media. Is it something else? Is it not social media? Because I see so many people, I see a lot of people on YouTube who say, I don't use social media anymore. It's like, you're on YouTube, so I'm confused. How do I believe as a whole has impacted the community? Well, good and bad, obviously. One thing that's great is social media helps people connect. You don't have to, live next door to somebody and live in the same town. So social media is really good for making connections. Sort of clickbait, I think, is one of the biggest problems. And then, shiny, flashy things kind of are what capture people's attention. I don't really have a problem with social media. I think the things that are problematic within social media are more bigger social problems that go beyond social media. TikTok, for example, short form, it is what it is, some of it's really actually pretty good. Some of it's pretty silly and pretty ridiculous. My problem really is, one of my problem is people in general, I guess. Too many people don't seem to have any type of critical thinking skills. I feel like you shouldn't have to be told just because you see something on social media doesn't mean it's true. You shouldn't necessarily have to be told, hey, you should triple check sources for anything. We can't start a short form video with a whole bunch of disclaimers. We don't have time for all that. like, use your due diligence, use your, like, why is this so very lacking? Also, I think the issue that disturbs me, as much as I love, um, ooh, tea time. As much as I love being able to much more easily get resources, the ease with which witchcraft information is available is a two-sided knife, or two-sided two-sided knife, yeah. Because it used to be really that you would only find it if, you had to almost look for it usually or stumble upon it. And you had to already be, a little bit of a critical thinker. You already had to be a kind of person who you generally had to already, like, be a reader, and probably have read a lot of things and have a lot of knowledge and information. You kind of already had to be an outsider. You already had to be a nonconformist. You already sort of had to be kind of set up in a certain type of headspace. And it's not going to come out right. It's going to come out snobby in some way. It's not really what I mean, but now where it's just handed to you, or people don't have the chance to sort of discover it organically and to already have certain background. By the time I discovered witchcraft as like a real thing, I had already been interested in the topic and had already had so much knowledge in mythology and various topics, so I had if you go to college and you major in something, you have to take a lot of prerequisites. So it's like your life prerequisites are very easily skipped over because of the ease with which you can just, like, buy a spell book, and this is not, and then think that's what witchcraft is. So it's more, my issue is more with, unfortunately, with less with social media and more with, unfortunately, the popularity and the sort of popularity of witchcraft in terms of it being marketable and everyone wanting to sell something. And I'm sure there's going to be some questions later about gatekeeping, but I think that I don't think gatekeeping is bad. I feel like gatekeeping is sorely lacking. These days, people use this sort of no gatekeeping term to basically say, and also, everyone's path, blah, 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 blah. True in some ways, but not everything is true. Okay, so it's overwhelming. There's so much information, misinformation, and pretty much anyone can write a book saying anything, saying, you can question me, this is my path, and I can make something up in my head that does not work. I can claim that it does. I can say it works for me, but as a system, it won't work for anyone else. And there's just so much of that. There's so much of a loss of the fundamentals and things, because now there's so much of people saying, anything goes. I believe in eclecticism. I believe in creating your own path, but also there's fundamentals you have to understand. It's not just magical thinking where you just think things and they happen. And if that happens for you, that's great, but that's not a system of witchcraft that you can teach to others. Nor should it be something that you're selling either through a book or online, even in free content. Anyway, there's my babble about that. How do I believe social media as a whole? Social media, I think, plays a part in some of that, but again, I don't think it's purely social media. I think it's just the availability of resources and the ability to, it's kind of like online dating. Less effort has to go into it, and less effort kind of gets not better results. So I think that's a thing sometimes. How do I think social platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube have impacted education, sharing information? Honestly, I love TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and I just think it's important for people to have a filter and to understand and to be able to filter out misinformation, poor information, and kind of, not with this whatever anyone says is true for them. I just don't believe that. It may be true for you, but as a learning, as something to teach, no. Sorry. I think there's going to be people who don't like that, but I'm sorry, no. But in terms of education and sharing information, it's amazing. It's amazing how much information, there's wonderful things. But discernment is a thing. Discernment is a thing that I feel like discernment is looked down on now because we're supposed to accept everything and everybody, no matter what they say. Discernment, people. Okay. Is consuming witchcraft content becoming a substitute for practice? Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, I think for me, I've always been into reading. So for me, books and kind of taking in information with or without social media, I kind of think it's, I can't blame social media for that. You read witchcraft or even self-help books or whatever types of books, and you maybe you think, I'm gonna read it through one time and then I'm gonna read it through and do the things or whatever, but then you move on to the next book. Kind of a thing happens. So I think it very easily can substitute for practice. However, practice isn't always what people think it is either. I feel like on one hand, consuming content can be a substitute for practice. On the other hand, your life is your practice. So in that way, no. Your life is your practice. Not everyone, I guess, really rolls that way, but I feel like being a witch sort of is like, I was reading a book about Native American spirituality, and it's so often culturally appropriated. And one of the things that the book was talking about was that it was harder for Westerners to really understand Native American spirituality because Native American spirituality is not divorced from Native American life, Native American culture, Native American everyday things. You know, the way that they go about their day and how they, you know, I think it's kind of become a big, pretty well known among a lot of people. Things like braiding the hair is a spiritual practice, but it's also a practical practice. I mean, they needed to braid their hair, but at the same time, while they braided their hair, this is time that they spent sharing stories, that they braided blessings into the hair. I don't know, honestly, so don't be mad if I get this wrong, but, the spirituality isn't separated from, they don't have, like, the spiritual and the profane, okay? So, for me, it's like that. I don't have my, like, this is spiritual, this is not spiritual. So, if I wasn't spending as much time on social media, would I maybe doing more of some type of approved practice? Maybe. I'm not sure. Then again, I mentioned spells, and I think spells are just such a small part. I don't do a lot of spells. I've done spells. I do a lot of divination, mostly tarot cards. I do a lot of learning, which I think is important, and so I do use social media for that. I think learning, educating myself on various things, whether it be deities, whether it be natural remedies, whether it be herbs, crystals, etc., is part of my practice. So, not exactly a yes or no question. So, consuming witchcraft content, becoming a substitute for practice, it's becoming more and more a part of my practice. And sometimes maybe it is choking out some other parts. That's a possibility. So that's a yes and a no, and a no and a no and a no on that one. Topic number 2, influencer authenticity. Ooh. Out of what I share on social media, how much of it is stage versus reality? Oh boy. So for me, it's reality. It's usually chaos. You'll see my videos where, I'm trying to adjust my camera, my tripod falls over, and I just kind of keep on going. I don't edit yet, maybe someday. At one point, I was going to edit a video on my iPad, and the video ended up never really going up. So, instant gratification, guys, sorry. So yeah, mine is pretty real, I would say. Staged? No. Do I think there's an element of censorship on online spaces? Yeah. What I think is mainly censored is kind of, it's great that we're nice people, and that we're loving and that we want to be supportive. I love that the YouTube community is supportive and even, more community-based than, competition-based versus other areas of the internet in the world where people are a little more cutthroat or whatever. However, what I don't like is how it's just not okay to say, this is not good, I don't like this, I didn't enjoy this deck, or I don't approve of this deck, or I don't approve of this idea or concept, or I don't approve of the message that this person is posting, or maybe even this person. I mean, would I want to be the target of someone saying, ultraviolet, don't listen, don't watch her channel? Obviously, I wouldn't love that. And I don't think anyone would bother with that unless someone was pretty big. But I feel like the censorship is in against speaking out. It's like against anything. It's almost like the thin blue line. With the police don't speak out against police. If tarot readers don't speak out against tarot readers, unless it's so There was one, I remember a creator who someone gave them a bad review or something, and then they became very, very toxic. And so that was kind of a big issue. Like, their response was very toxic. But there's like this expectation that, if we review something, we're only going to say nice things about it. Even, and I just don't agree with that. I feel like that's in the way that we censor ourselves. Well, how do I decipher what is appropriate to share online versus what to keep privately? I don't know. Is this both based on social media etiquette or on personal preference? Personal preference. I'm Gen X, and so I don't have that much respect for authority in the first place, let alone the authority of social media etiquette. I mean, I was around when the internet was born, and it was the Wild West, and so, yeah. To me, it still is. Whoever thinks that they're the sheriff, I didn't vote for them. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't say that I base anything for myself on social media etiquette. I don't know. Maybe I do, but I don't think so. Mostly personal preference, I would say. Have I ever encountered or heard of grifters in our community? Yeah. So the main grift is someone will have a channel that's really, really big. Someone else will come on the channel, sort of copy their channel, and then they'll notify people like, I wanted to do a reading for you or whatever, and then so they scam them in that way. Excuse me. What I mostly know, I haven't seen it too much myself, but I've seen a lot of people say, except on Instagram. Instagram is so full of copycat accounts, and so is TikTok. Like, my TikTok is followed by like 92 George Clooney's or something. Okay. And on Instagram, I've gotten messages from soap stars that I follow that aren't really them, stuff like that. But so that's more of a social media thing in a way. But yeah, people will message and tell people, offer them a reading or ask them. I don't know how it works, but they try to sell them a reading, or perhaps they give them a free reading and then tell them they have a curse on them, and then they have to pay to, get the curse removed or whatever, and they're claiming to be these trusted people. I feel like the awareness that happens should hopefully be enough that everyone knows to be diligent and to have a healthy skepticism to prevent that. And then also I feel like, what the heck? I mean, if you're going to give a grifter your money, then why don't you give it to me? If someone's going to message you and say, hey, I'm ultraviolet and I want to sell you a message. I want to sell, do you want to, I have a strong feeling about you. I really want to do a reading for you. don't know. Like, yeah. So, make sure always that when you're contacting someone for a reading, you're contacting the person and not their doppelganger clone. That's the main thing that I know about. I also do know about a person who was involved with making of a specific deck. I guess his girlfriend made it, and there was some, shady things, and I don't want to call that out here, but I did know that, that male person, from groups, and apparently there was a lot of, not necessarily in relation to the cards, but sort of just in relation to using the community in a way that was sort of beneficial to himself at the detriment of others. So, in general, again, just really watch out for people not being who they say they are, even if they are big names, you know. What tools are helpful to decipher misinformation, and how can we, as a community, prevent widespread misinformation? I think our biggest tool is communication. Our biggest tool is our channel, our voice. What we can do is, I guess, that we can try to correct it, and we can try to listen, and we can try to stop calling everything gatekeeping. We can engage in a little bit of skepticism and realize that it's okay to be skeptical. And we can realize that our favorite content creators are people, and they are, imperfect, and they, can can accidentally or on purpose spread misinformation, can do negative things, they're just people. So we can't put them up on too much of a pedestal, and we have to sort of listen to each other. It's kind of, at least give people the benefit of the doubt, when there's two sides or whatever, sort of be willing to hear each other out. How does a large following impact the perception of the creator? Does this immediately make them an expert, or are there other assumptions as to why they may have a large following? I think a person with a large following is kind of seen as an expert. They probably did something to get that following. I guess you could say that's incorrect, but I think that by and large they're going to be perceived as an expert, whether or not I think so or not. But then there are some people that I think are really experts that don't have. I'm actually honestly surprised that they don't have that large of a, like Lennon Smith is amazing. She's so smart. I was watching one of her videos the other day, and she said something, and I looked at her, I was like, she really doesn't, she does not have the following I would expect she would have. And I love her content. She says she's not really here to teach, per se. She didn't say per se, I'm saying that. She shares her experience, which to me is so much more educational than just passing on another, thing that you can Google. I love watching what to do for in bulk videos. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And some of them are really amazing. Some really good ones, like Hearthwitch? Is that how you say your name? But, Lennon, just her stuff is so much personal analysis, and I feel like we don't get enough of that, honestly. That's kind of its own topic, but for myself, I guess I perceive someone to be an expert when I watch them and they just kind of know what they're talking about and say things that light my brain up. But yes, if they do have a large following, also, you know, that does impact, obviously, the perception that they're an expert. If you look at the Tarot Oracles channel, he's got a pretty big following, but it's not huge. And despite the fact he's got an insane amount of videos and educational videos, and I did learn so much on his channel from the beginning of my tarot journey. I'm kind of surprised. So, you know, he's got lots and lots and lots of videos. They're all older, you know, now he more or less does lives. And he has a pretty decent, you know, he has a big following, but I'm actually kind of surprised it's not bigger. I don't really have any assumption of why someone has a large following. How does one maintain the balance of authenticity and content creation? How does one? I don't know how one does. How me does is, like, I'm just a girl with a phone. I'm too lazy to edit or to figure out how to edit, or like I used to have some editing. Actually, unplug this. So it's gonna be all about. Unplug in my tablet, or my tablet will die. Okay. I have editing. I used to have some editing stuff on my iPad, and I'm not even sure that I do anymore. Maybe there's some free stuff. I just don't. I guess, a little bit out of my depth as far as that goes. Like, I could learn, but I have a million other things in my head that I'm doing instead. So until that becomes the thing, I'm just a girl with a phone, knocking things over. So, how others maintain the balance of authenticity, for that I don't know. And I'm sure there are some people who don't. There's probably some creators that are nothing like what we think they are. So I'm just gonna leave that for now. Topic number 3: imposter syndrome and FOMO. And for the few of us who don't know what FOMO is, it's fear of missing out. When I follow other creators in the community space, does it make me feel generally inspired and empowered, or does it create feelings of FOMO and of being less than? I'd say it mostly makes me feel inspired. I do get FOMO, I guess, with deck unboxings, and sometimes I just don't watch deck unboxings. And I've heard people talk about how deck unboxings make them feel so negatively or so bad that they don't have enough to buy all these decks. You do not have to buy all the decks. You can look at a lot of decks with the point of, you know, which deck would be the best for me, which deck speaks to me the best. Like, the fact that there are a lot of options does not mean you have to have all of the options. I mean, I understand wanting all of them for sure. I do. I totally want every deck ever made. And if it's a terrible, awful, horrible deck, I want that one even more. Just because I'm that kind of really weird person. And if it's one that I'm really crazy about, like, I mean, I would go to Eclectic Tarot, and I still go there, and we'll look through those decks, and I'll see a deck, and I'll be like, this is so amazing, this is so unique, this is what I want, this speaks to me on a different level than all these other decks that are all so samey, but like with a different color palette or whatever, and sometimes not even that. And of course, it's rare and out of print and not available to me. So, I mean, that's just what happens, right? And I feel disappointed, and I feel like if this deck ever should be available to me at a price that I can afford, then I'll probably get it, you know? But I don't feel that doesn't affect my self-esteem. Like, I don't feel like I'm a lesser of a person because I can't own every single tarot deck. I don't personally. I don't quite understand some of the. I've seen videos where people are saying, you know, as if showing off decks, a lot of decks, is disrespectful to people who don't have a lot of money. There's other types of content to watch. I don't know. I just feel like if a certain type of content is hurtful to you and is making you feel less than, don't watch it. Protect yourself, you know? But I don't think that it's really wrong for anyone to buy as many decks as they want to buy and, you know, receive free decks if they do, and to be a channel where you can preview decks before you buy them. That's a resource for us. It's a resource, it's not a goal. Like, it's a resource to be able to look through a deck before you buy it, not a goal that you should have to have every single one of them. That's the point of looking through them, is, you know, seeing the to find the one or two or whatever, how many ever for you. As examples, it would be the need to purchase the latest product or book to fit in. There's so many books. I'm economically disadvantaged. Or, you know, I'll just say I'm poor, whatever. I don't have nothing, you know. I have all the things I need, but I don't have spending money. So, if I did have money, then it probably still wouldn't occur to me, oh yeah, I can get that thing. There's lots of books that I want to get. I don't really feel like I have a need to have anything to fit in. It's just, I guess I'm a little bit more of a loner or individualistic in that way. Like, also books, there's libraries, there's library loans. You can get occult books through library loans, interlibrary loans. There's a lot of books you can find PDFs online if they're older books. And honestly, the books I want are older for the most part, except for like Kellyanne's book, Rebel Witch. I want that for sure. I'm a little sad. Like, that's the first one that popped into my head. Like, I wish I could have that book, but someday I'll get it. When practicing my craft, I find myself comparing what I do to what I've been seeing people do online. Only in a way of like, not in an imposter syndrome way, like, oh, I'm not a real witch because I don't do this or that. Sometimes I maybe do in a scoffing way of like, so like, I've seen videos of tarot people who, this is how I cleanse my decks. It's like a 62-step process or whatever. And then there's people on there going, oh my gosh, what if I can't? Or what if I don't? Like, this is just how this person cleanses their deck. You don't have to do that. I don't cleanse my decks routinely. Some of my decks probably have been cleansed. I don't store all my books on my decks in natural cloth. This is the kind of thing if you have a very small collection, honestly. A natural cloth with their own little crystal, and they've been saged and prayed over and held up to my heart. Sometimes when, and even in a lot of the books, the like the Hay House books for Oracle decks, they'll give you this whole spiel. Sometimes I'll just do it. Be like, sure, I'll do it. But, and then sometimes I'm just like, kind of roll my eyes at it, like, don't think you need to do any of that. You don't need to do any of that unless you want to, unless you feel called to it. And even like, I never called on guides or anything like that when I read until I did. You know, like I never did it because someone said this is what you need to do. At some point, it felt okay to me. It felt good to me to say it. At some point, in the beginning, it didn't feel good to me. Like it felt very fake and phony and dumb, and I didn't, was resistant to it, so I didn't do it. And I had just as good of readings. And then another point in time, it helped me to get into the right headspace or whatever to say, I'll say, got us some guides, give me a card, give me a clear message, blah, 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 blah. That's just what I say. Other people have whole prayers they say every time they lay down their cards. Once in a while, it's, you'll see something and you'll be like, oh, I like that, I really like that. And sometimes you'll see something and you'll just kind of roll your eyes and be like, and I'm not calling anybody out at all, because obviously whatever works for them, works for them. But just because someone has a sort of more elaborate thing that they do does not make me feel less than. And sometimes if someone has a real elaborate sort of kind of theatrical thing, that can go either way. Like I can be like, that's just theatrics. But then it can also be like, there's a value to theatrics, especially, when you're reading for other people. There's a value to, everything having your space set up, having the soft music in the background, taking your time to turn over cards, all of those things. There can be a value to that. And so sometimes maybe I'll be like, oh, yeah, I want to integrate that kind of idea or whatever. But I don't know. It's never anything that makes me feel... I mean, if someone else does something publicly, you are free to take inspiration from that. So I don't really know why, if it's something I like and can figure out a way to integrate it that makes sense to me, then I probably will. Or I'll think I'll do and then I'll forget about it or whatever, but I don't know. Life's too short to just compare yourself to people just to make yourself feel worse. I'm definitely more of a taking inspiration kind of person. What way do I combat imposter syndrome? I wouldn't say that I never have imposter syndrome either. I think in the beginning, especially, I really liked doing pick-a-card readings that were pre-recorded pick-a-card readings because they're to a wide audience. You're able to practice in a more relaxed way where there's not like one individual person looking at you like asking for answers. There's sort of more pressure on that. So, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I really lost my train of thought. And in the beginning I did sometimes feel like do I really know what I'm doing? And sometimes I would, and sometimes still I'll be reading and feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And then other times I feel like I'm just on fire, And then I got a lot of really, really good feedback that really helped. I guess it's really the best I can do is just remember some of the good feedback that I've gotten. And learning to trust, I feel like, in terms of, my tarot, I guess, learning to trust yourself is one of the biggest lessons with the tarot. Learning to actually trust your own intuition. And there's really nothing to be said for that. When you learn to trust your intuition, you learn to trust yourself. And the more you learn to trust yourself, I feel like the less sort of imposter syndrome has a hold on you. What would my practice look like without social media influence of other creators? That makes me sad. I love, when I was first learning just to read tarot, one of the things I did was I looked up a whole bunch of just scenes of people reading tarot in movies. I wanted to see someone doing a reading. And then I watched somebody pick a cards. And it was important for me to see different ways that people would do every single aspect of it. And I guess that helped me to recognize that my way was going to be the right way for me, and to accept that other people's way is the right way for them. Whether they read reversals, whether they read jumpers, whether they read the bottom of the deck. I mean, I did the same thing when I learned to knit too. Like, my teacher said, basically everyone has a different sort of style, and I felt very stiff with knitting and just like I couldn't really get it until I went and watched videos of other people knitting and seeing like, what does this everyone having their own sort of style mean? And then I was kind of able to integrate all of that into, you see certain things and you go, okay, definitely not that, okay, that kind of, a little bit, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but I need my people. And also, I don't even know who I would, I would just do things at home, but who would I read tarot cards to? Who would I even admit that I liked tarot to in my own community? Luckily, I found out my neighbor is into tarot and oracle cards, years after living across from her and thinking that she would actually probably be against it, but she's not. She's totally into it, so that's cool. But I don't know. It's hard to imagine anything without social media. Topic 4: capitalizing off of community. Hello from Argentina. Hi, Sebastian. That was probably made a bit ago. Hi to Alice. Wow, I have been on for a minute. Okay. Do I consider online communities as equally valid as in-person communities? Yes, totally. Definitely. Are they different? Yes. Would you have both? Yes. Ideally, would you have in-person and not online? In some cases, in-person might fill a need, enough of a person's need that they wouldn't need an online community, but I still think some people with in-person could still benefit from online. Again, there's you just have to know that in person is not online and online is not in person. They're different things. How have online occult witchcraft communities impacted me as a person and practitioner? I couldn't quantify that. I got my first witchcraft book at a garage sale when I was 21, 20 or 21. Well, it was 2 books. But the one book was Dion Fortune Kabbalah book, where I wish I had it now. It just didn't make any sense to me then. And also, I wish I would have written down the address of where people were selling this book, because that didn't occur to me. That, hello, this was in my own town. But I had to sneak that book. Like, it was crazy. You know, it was a secret, which is fine. Like, there's something kind of cool about the practicing in secret. It doesn't really exist as much anymore. But I had that one book for like 3-4 years until I moved to a bigger city, had access to the internet, had access to a bigger public library. I think interlibrary loans probably, when I got my first book, that might not even have really been a thing like it is now. And joined YouTube communities. And, I mean, it just cracked open an entire freaking universe to me. So, I mean, like, I don't even know how to answer that. What are some of the dangers of the current phenomenon of capitalizing off the witchcraft community? I think just so much crap gets sold as that's the same thing, and it's meaningless, and it's nothing, and it's fluff. And back in the day, there were a lot of practitioners would call, so like, in the witchcraft community, we'd say fluffy bunny witches, that were all love and light, and were basically new, and kind of didn't have any grounding in the basics, and they were made fun of. And now it's not cool ever to make fun of anyone, but back then it was not frowned upon so much. And like, we're all beginners, and I was the one at that time saying, we're all beginners, like there's a place for fluffy bunnies and stuff. But I feel a little bit like fluffy bunnyism has taken over in some ways sometimes. And for me, in terms of like buying books and stuff like that, I prefer old books from like before early 90s or before. Before Silver Raven Witch, I forgot her name. A lot of stuff I feel is just made up, and I have a specific person in my head who writes a very popular book, and I read it with a lot of cynicism, and I'm not going to name her, but she has a good tarot deck though that I like. But like, the things she says don't add up to me, and it just seems like she's making up a lot of stuff, and I feel like it's super easy to make up a lot of stuff because it makes money these days. And back before the 90s, it was a very niche market. People did not write these books to make money. They wrote these books to pass on information in a small community that was secretive. It was secret, And I'm sure there's some BS from back then too, but I feel like we're flooded with so much nonsense that no one's allowed to call out. I don't think there's anything wrong with charging for your time or knowledge. I don't think there's anything wrong with charging for tarot reading or charging for a quote-unquote spiritual service. If you're I don't want to say shaman because it's not normally the actual term that would be used by Native Americans, but if you're the medicine man of a tribe, you're provided for by the tribe and you provide your services to the tribe. So there is this circle, even though it may be perceived that those services are freely given, and perhaps they are. I don't know, honestly, saying the truth. I don't really believe I believe in community. And community can happen with exchange of monetary exchange. It can be part of a community. And some communities, it's not a monetary exchange. And that's fine too. But I don't really believe, in this sort of overarching spirit of, Spirit says you must give away your gifts and you'll magically be provided for. I don't believe in that. I'm sorry. I don't think that was ever the case. I think that, like I said, in communities where the spiritual person is respected and the community takes care of them and the spiritual person takes care of the community's spiritual needs. That's how that works. It's practical. I do think, so I don't have any issue with that ever. I don't have any issue with someone selling classes for $500, $1,000, $2,000. If you don't want to buy classes for $2,000, you just simply don't. You don't have to take classes from that person. To me, it doesn't make it a scam because you can't afford that amount or because someone else sells it for less. Certainly, people can be scamming others and charging lots of money. I don't think it's that. To me, that's not really the test. A lot of spiritual people, if they do have classes that are expensive, sometimes they have ways that you can pay for it if you have a smaller budget. I think that's great for them to offer that. I also don't think it's required as a litmus test of whether or not they're sincere or whatever. I don't know. You can price me right out. Well, you can teach classes that are $50,000 to take your classes. I cannot take that class. I don't know if there's value in that class. Only that, I'm not going to say there's not just because I can't afford to take it or that you're wrong to charge that because I can't afford it. That's me. Have I been personally affected by this or have I witnessed someone else be affected? I think no. Shortest answer of the whole bunch. Should there be a paywall communities and online courses? Yeah, I don't see why not. I guess I just covered that. I think it's amazing how much free content we have, and I'm actually kind of against the cult of gratitude of being as if gratitude is the one thing, and that we have to go around being grateful for everything. So I'm not one to speak on gratitude willy-nilly, but I think we really need to be grateful for the amount of content that we get for free, and it's amazing. There's so much free content. We should really be amazed and grateful for creators who create this just because they want to share. Hey, it's Miss Moonlight in the house. Hey, I'm doing tarot tag, occult tea, or not tarot tag, witchy tag. Like, absolutely everyone has a right to have a paywall community, and to limit a community, and to keep numbers down, keep prices high, whatever they want to do. Sell online courses, no problem with that. I feel like we get so much free that we assume that it's meant to be free, and I don't think it was ever meant to be free. Back before, when I was talking about how the spiritual person of the community would provide the spiritual needs, and the community would provide for the spiritual person's needs, you know. I think there was always an exchange. There was always a price. Honestly, there's always been a price for learning. It used to be that the way to learn, you'd either have to probably buy a book, and then you would seek out a coven, or you might eke out your own solitary path, which would take you a lot of work, effort, time, and I think you paid for that with an exchange, and I think you would get, I think you paid for that in certain ways in exchange for your energies, and you got what you got from the spirits or from wherever. Learning, being purely solitary is going to be limiting, right? So then if you wanted to join a spiritual community or a coven, there would be a cost. Like, these days we are so anti-gatekeeping. Witchcraft has always been gate-kept, and I think it should be. Like, I don't know why we have this concept that's just free to all, hand out all the knowledge. Like, no. I don't agree with that in the slightest. You would have had to join a coven, and you would have not been told everything immediately. You would have had to earn your steps. You would have had to, dedicate yourself. You would have had to earn your knowledge. Nothing was ever free. Now we have the internet. There's so much free stuff that we've become entitled to thinking that spirituality is free, and it never has been. It never has been. Whether it comes from a coven or whether it comes from a god, it's never been free. Wisdom's never been free. Wisdom has always gotten the hard way. Wisdom's what you get when you don't get what you wanted, basically. We should honestly be grateful for all of the free content and not so much expect it, but I feel like we do. And the idea that spiritual things and mixing spiritual and money, the tarot cards have coins on them, bud. Spiritual and money has never been, like, legitimately not separated. I mean, the alchemists were trying to make gold, and they got funded by appealing to kings and queens who wanted to know how to make gold as well, So, this is like some airy-fairy foo-foo thing that I don't believe at all that it's wrong to charge for anything spiritual. I think the spirits always charge us. They always charge us something, honestly. So, paywall communities, online courses, yes. We are not entitled to anyone's labor, even spiritual labor, for sure. Especially spiritual labor, it can be so draining. How does one ensure that authenticity of course, workshop, membership, etc. as a financial investment? Firstly, you gotta look at, is this in my own budget? Because if it's not, it really doesn't matter. Then I guess you can ask people who've taken it before, who've worked with that teacher. Just general due diligence, and at some point maybe you kind of have to take a chance, but never spend more than you can afford, just like anywhere else in your life. I think know that you don't need any of those things. You don't need a course, a workshop, or a membership, but I think you can gain from those things. So you have to look at it's personal, I guess, for you. Like, is it going to benefit you? And then if it does, there's got probably some reviews somewhere that you can read, or people you can talk to that have, like I said, worked with that teacher. I think probably knowing the ethics of the instructor is probably one of the most important things. And if those ethics align with your ethics, because let's not assume that there's only one right and wrong ethics, because I don't necessarily believe that either. Ethics is actually probably something we should all talk about more, because they're not as simple as one ethical guiding line. That can be something to help you on a day-to-day basis, but if that's your sole ethical guideline, no. I mean, I studied, I have 2 separate associate's degrees. One's in interior design and one's in social work. Both interior design and social work have standards of ethics that are multi-pages long. Social work and human services have their own separate sets of ethical guidelines that some of them are similar and some of them are different. Any field has its own ethics, its own set of ethics, and it's elaborate. And I won't elaborate further, but it's elaborate. It's personally, ethics sounded boring, but when I got into it, it actually was really interesting. So I just think we should probably talk about ethics more and more in depth. But I don't know. I feel like my ethics would diverge with a lot of other people's because, like I said, I don't believe that gatekeeping is bad. I think we need more of it, probably not less of it. It doesn't go over so well. And gatekeeping, the anti-gatekeeping ideal is very advantageous to people who want to sell you things. Nothing wrong with selling you things, but there is a lot of ethical considerations with that. It's very advantageous to people who want to sell you things and to people who want to appropriate other cultures. It's also very advantageous to them. So it's very advantageous to people who aren't necessarily healthy for the most robust health of the community. And also, come to think of it, people making money within the community, I think makes sense. And it's different from people outside of the community, we don't ever think about that, but I think witchcraft can be culturally appropriated, or, appropriated by outside people who don't really have any interest in it other than to make money off of it and to sell us back our own spirituality and our own religion. Like, I mean, if you were a Christian and you wanted to buy a Bible, would you want to buy a Bible from a Christian publishing house that publishes Christian materials for Christian growth, spiritual growth? Or would you want to purchase your Bible from, because anyone can probably print a Bible, would you want to purchase your Bible from just some billionaire publishing house that just sells Bibles because they make money off of it? So there's my thought on that. Conclusions! Oh, hey, we're getting close to the end here. What are some topics of conversation I'd like to see more of in our community? Apparently, more defensive gatekeeping and more talks about ethics. Also, what was I going to say about defensive gatekeeping? I don't remember. Maybe it'll come back to me. What are my community needs? You could take that two different ways. What are my needs from the community? Oh, and what does my community need? I don't know. Good question. I guess I'll look and see what other people say about that one. Topics of conversation. There's something stuck in my head about topics of conversation I'd like to see more of in our community. And on the topic of cultural appropriation, people also tend to really bypass cultural appropriation with things like, well, I did it respectfully. Okay. There are keywords that people use that they think it's okay. As long as they say that they did it with respect, as long as they say that they researched it, they took it seriously, and I don't think that's always necessarily true. And I also don't think it's entirely black and white. Like, I don't think if you're a white person and you make a deck about or book or whatever about shamanism, let's say, so that is a huge one, or program, a class, whatever, about shamanism, and you're leaning into, so there's core shamanism, which probably has some appropriation, because it's really talking about things that can be learned at the core of all different types of shamanism. So, I think it does take, I think we can recognize something is cultural appropriation, and maybe it doesn't necessarily entirely villainize or invalidate it. Maybe. I think there's room to consider that, maybe. I'm not sure, honestly. But like, we can recognize, okay, there's strengths to this, but as a weakness, it is a bit culturally appropriative, rather than saying there's some cultural appropriations of the whole thing shit, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like we could see that as a valid criticism without it being, the whole story, I guess. One aspect. Or like, people talk about representation. Like, you can say, okay, this deck has no representation, everybody's white, skinny, beautiful, and whatever. Does that mean it's a terrible deck? Not necessarily. That is one criticism of the deck that will weigh heavily for some and less heavily for others, right? So me to see, like, so I started to say, if you're a white person and you created this shamanism deck and someone buys it, like, does it make you a bad person because you bought a really popular shamanism deck by some white person who's not from the shamanic culture? No, I don't think that makes you a terrible person. Was it the best choice or purchase or use of your resources? No. Again, you know what I'm saying? So, like, a more sort of balanced, I guess, look at some things, a little bit less of villainization of things while still recognizing that they're negative, but also less, I would rather see something, I want to say less justification, and even though it feels like I'm justifying, I would rather see this something be acknowledged as, I can see how this could be considered cultural appropriation. I chose to do it for the following reasons, I guess. Rather than the smoke screen of it's not cultural appropriation because I say that I did it um, with respect, because it's really just a word. Because do those people of that culture feel respected that you did a lot of research and turned this thing out and swear it's not cultural appropriation? But it kind of is. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. I just feel like the cultural appropriation is one thing that could have a more nuanced look, because I just feel like when we're so black and white, we aren't really analyzing it as best as we could, because we just want to put it in the category of no, it's not cultural appropriation, so it's okay, or yes, it is, so it's not okay, rather than seeing it as it has some good qualities, but you know, it is in fact culturally appropriative. I hope that makes sense. I feel almost like that's going to offend everyone, but I get so cringy every time I hear someone say it's not cultural appropriation because it was done respectfully. And because I respect, I say, you know, in my head, in my body, I respect your culture, and I did my research, and therefore it's not cultural appropriation, when it is still. It still is. Okay, so. And then you get a lot of people who go, yeah, and agree with that, you know, and it's like, no one is wiser. No one is wiser about cultural appropriation. No one's really wiser about the issue because it's been glossed over. So, more nuance and analysis, I guess, is maybe needed in that area. Where would I like to feel more held and supported? Well, interesting. No idea, but what a great question. Where do I feel like I'm not truly being seen by my community? No idea, but great question. Maybe I'll have to do a part two. How can we help each other in removing the external peer pressures and grow in community? Again, no idea. I feel like I'm not very strongly affected by peer pressure. Only thing I can really think is talking about it. Also, I feel like, again, that there's a little bit of a fear in terms of speaking negatively about anything, and that leads to not being truthful, and that leads to not even thinking truthful. Like, you get a deck that you want to review or whatever, and I think just subconsciously, we feel like we want to support deck creators, book writers, whatever. We want to support other people. And so even without, just sort of subconsciously, even we don't want to think a negative thought, even if we do have a negative thought. Like, I just feel like we should be more free to say things that people don't want to hear. Like, if you really hate the Wild Unknown Tarot deck, don't tell me about it because I love it. But, on your website, on your page, and whatever, you should be able to say, no, I don't like this, I don't recommend this, whatever. And actually, I've heard a lot of negativity about that particular deck, but overall, I feel like people are just afraid to ever say anything that's considered negative, and it could just be, I don't know. We could be more real, and we could be supportive of people who say things that make us uncomfortable, that we don't want to hear. We don't want to hear that cultural appropriation is happening, even though I know you didn't mean to do anything wrong, but you kind of did, kind of a thing, Alright. How can we as a community come together more with constructive criticism without it seeming shady, passive aggressive? Well, I think I just covered that. How can we as a community do better when we receive criticism and feedback? I think I covered that. We have to kind of expect. We did start off by not feeling entitled to not be criticized. Nobody is entitled to not be criticized. Nobody is required to like your content, your message, your face, your voice, your channel. Nobody's required to like your blurry pictures, your cultural appropriation, your stupid opinions that gatekeeping is okay. Because I'm attacking myself right now. I don't think that's a stupid opinion, but, no one else is required to agree with me. So, we're also supposed to, as a spiritual community, as spiritual seekers, one of our aspirations is normally to, get past that ego sense. So, we gotta be willing to do it. And some people just aren't, and some people are, but it's not always easy. I mean, nobody likes to be criticized. We just have to get past the idea that we are entitled to never be criticized. And then, I guess, we just have to be willing to hear difficult things and willing to support each other. And I don't know if I have all the answers to that. Who are some community members that I look up to that are reliable sources and aspirations? Oh, well, I did some name dropping in the beginning. Like I said, Lennon Smith, I think is her last name, is so amazing. Dawn Michelle is just, she's great. She's So Don Michelle is one where I learned a lot about, I guess, tarot journaling for life. And if you want to moderate a deck, then she's the one. She's the one to check out for sure. I'm not big on moderating my decks, but I have watched some of her deck mods. And the idea of moderating and making a deck really your own and really just putting yourself into it in that way is also really cool. I'm looking at a picture that was weird and was looking like not what it, I don't know. Anyway, sorry. I got distracted. Mary Grace, is that her name? She's one that I really look up to and respect, and also she's one that will call out bullshit in her view, I feel like. I like that, okay? I like that. I feel like I can trust when you tell me something is fantastic, I can trust you if I know you'll tell me if you think it's shit. And that's just, you know, it's nice that we all want to be nice, but we can't always be nice all the time. And I can't really trust your good review if you've never said anything just straight up sucked, you know? Who else did I want to mention in the community? Kellyanne Maddox, of course. God, I mean, just damn. I mean, just put on one of her things and then, you know, make sure you got your notes or whatever, or put on your headphones while you're doing your dishes. Just every time I see one of her videos, whatever the topic is, I think I know the answer, and then she just like blows my brain open. She's so amazing. Everyone knows that. I don't have to even say that. There is a specific person I just freaking really, really love seeing her insights, but she never posts anymore. And she is also a smaller content creator. Well, I so wanted to shout her out, but I cannot think of her name. I can see her face, I can hear her voice. Okay, sorry guys. There's quite a few people. Oh, and the Mind Witch lady. I can't think of her name either, but I used to watch her a lot before like one of the first people I found. And I don't watch her quite as much, but I do enjoy her. Now there's so many more people that, you know, everybody gets spread out a little bit more. Any further thoughts, comments, prompt questions of my own? Express further points, offer solutions. Okay. Further thoughts, I've always got thoughts. Comments, I've always got comments. Prompt questions of my own. Express further points, offer solutions. I think I've said a lot. Prompt question. In what ways do you think gatekeeping can be beneficial to the witchcraft community? And in what ways do you think we can have more discussions about ethics that are deep quality discussions? And do we enjoy deep quality discussions, or do we like light, fluffy, fun content? I guess that's it. That is the long. Scotland! Oh my gosh, hi. It has been forever. Well, I am signing out because I've been on for 105 minutes, apparently. So, thanks, everyone, for joining my live discussion on this tarot tag. Until next time, be well.